In this episode of Pop Culture Weekly, I talk with Joe Mantegna, Gary Sinise, and a very special guest from USAA, all honoring our brave men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice for us. Let's go!
You're listening to Pop Culture Weekly with Kyle McMahon, presented by 92.9 Tom FM, an iHeart radio station.
Hello and welcome to Pop Culture Weekly with Kyle McMahon. I, of course, am Kyle McMahon, and this is episode number 67. We are just chugging along. It is a very special episode today. It's an all-interview episode once again, but I have three very special guests, and they're all related to Memorial Day and what a important day it is. We all think of Memorial Day as, you know, parties and the pool and the beach and barbecues and crabs and the kind you eat, not the kind you receive. And it's really way more about that, way more than that. It is about honoring those men and women who lost their lives fighting for our freedoms that we enjoy. And we can never, ever, ever forget that. And you guys know I love to have fun, but, you know, it's really important to me as the son of a veteran that we remember those that we lost fighting for us, fighting for me to do this show, fighting for me to say insane things and get paid to do it, and watch movies and TV and talk about it and get paid for it without repercussions for the most part. It's important. And so, you know, normally I go down to D.C. for the PBS National Memorial Day concert, and I do that every year. And of course, I do PBS Capitol 4th as well. And this year it is once again virtual because of COVID. Next year will for sure be in person. But I talk once again with Joe Mantegna, who is just an incredible person. He has me tearing up in our interview. I have him tearing up. It's just a really great conversation. I love that man, and he deserves every ounce of respect that he has. I mean, he's such an incredible actor, artist, talent, and person. So I talk with him. I talk with Gary Sinise himself, the one and only Gary Sinise. And, you know, Gary has been in everything from Of Mice and Men to Forrest Gump, Apollo 13. The man has an incredible career. He's an incredible talent. And one of the awesome things about him is that, oh, and of course he was on CSI for like 10 years, in many ways has taken a step back from writing and directing and his talent for the Gary Sinise Foundation. And what the Gary Sinise Foundation does, it's a charity and veteran service organization, and they offer a variety of programs, events for wounded veterans, services, resources for them. It's a nonprofit. It's really, really incredible. So I talk with him about that and about what Memorial Day means to him. And then I get to talk to the VP of Brand Management at USAA, Eric Enquist. And we talk all about what USAA is doing for veterans this Memorial Day and what they do every year, but in particular what they're doing this year. And I love USAA. I bank with them. My insurance is through them. They're just a great organization for veterans, active duty, and their families. So love, love, love USAA. This is an episode that's really special to me. And of course, we're going to have some fun like we always do. So let's start off with Joe Mantegna. How are you? Good to see you again.
You too. Great.
Oh, yeah, it's, you know, interesting. Last year when we talked, we were saying, oh, you know, we'll get to see each other in person next year, and here we are again. Kind of crazy, but
well, we're getting closer.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, first of all, thank you once again for speaking with me on Pop Culture Weekly with iHeart Radio. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And this year, once again, you know, you are co-hosting the National Memorial Day concert. How does it feel this year, particularly, you know, as we are starting to come out of this mess?
Well, I mean, in some ways, it's serendipitous in a way. I think when you think what it is. In other words, it's a National Memorial Day concert because in some ways I've kind of acquainted what we've gone through this past year with the COVID. When I bring it up to people or in discussion, it comes up what the whole world is going through. I say, well, you know what? This is our World War II. This is, our parents went through a time. I mean, at least people around my age. Our parents, our families, my uncles, my whatever, went through a period that was, in a way even more devastating, because it's something that, it was circumstances. In other words, and it was viciousness. It was people kind of killing each other, and the world was aflame, and we had to fight for existence. As opposed to this was just a fluke of nature that we just ultimately medically had to combat. We did. So in a way, it's like this is the cross we had to bear, this generation and the generations of this era. So in other words, when we look back on this, God willing, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we say, oh, wow, wasn't that a weird, horrible, terrible time? But we got through it. We did as we, luckily we were prepared for it, just as they did for the Black Plague back then and back for the Spanish flu and whatever it may be. So these are the thoughts that went through my head. And so to think that we still yet have to, this is going to go away. In other words, we're going to fix this. But our military, the whole thing with the things like Memorial Day, that's probably going to go on.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, there's going to be need for us to do what we need to do, and we're going to have to rely on people to help ensure the kind of freedoms that we've embraced in this country and nations like us.
And this year the special will have a tribute to honoring those that we lost and the heroes of 9/11 being the 20th anniversary. How is that for you, especially? How does that resonate with you?
Well, again, it's just going to be one of those touchstones that we all have that were around when that happened, or are old enough to remember what it was like when it happened, and just as as a kid growing up, we were always told about, this is what happened, and December 7th, 1941 was such the day that lived in infamy, as Roosevelt so aptly put it. So same thing, September 11th. 2001, it's going to always be a day that lives in infamy for us in this country, but it's also it's like a wake up call too, and it's a reminder of that. Until the human race can kind of ultimately get it together on a basis where we're all maybe smart enough and advanced enough and kind enough to be able to say, yes, we can live as one, we can live in peace, but there's going to be these instances, and we're just going to have to deal with it. And because of the nature of it being, what we're talking about here, like acknowledging Memorial Day, there's going to be those times we're going to have to rely on those people who have made that decision. Yeah, I'll step up. I'll be the one to try to straighten this out and make things right. Because I look at it this way: if 9/11 wouldn't have happened, then those, whatever the number is, it was in the thousands
mm-hmm.
of people, not just in those buildings that passed away, but all those members of the military who then went over there, had to go into conflict, and then forever are gone. And those families, they look, how do they look back on 9/11? That's the question. I look back at it as a person who, came through it basically unscathed personally. But what about all those families that can look at 9/11 and say, Jesus, if that wouldn't have happened, so-and-so would still be here.
Yeah.
And those are the things we can't forget. And that's why it's important.
You've hosted nearly every year. Why is this something that is so important for you to clear your schedule for and show up?
Well, early on, I realized that it was, and I've said it often, and it's the truth. It is the most important thing I do every year. And maybe it's because I didn't realize it would be that. In other words, I didn't go into it thinking, oh boy, this is going to be something. This is going to be monumental. I went into it totally with blinders on. Memorial Day was not, and I may have said this before, maybe even said it to you last time we talked, but Memorial Day was a holiday, but it wasn't like on my list of like, oh God, they can't wait for Memorial Day to come around. It's not like Thanksgiving or Christmas or Easter where you're thinking of all the good aspects of it. But yet I didn't have a lot of negative aspects about it either. I had a lot of family in the military, a lot of them in World War II. They all came back. They never talked about it much or anything. So it was kind of one of those things that wasn't a topic of conversation. So Memorial Day was like it was for many people. It was the Indianapolis 500 and barbecues and the beginning of summer.
Mm-hmm.
But when that day in 2002, when Charles Durning, the actor, asked me if I would participate in the concert, and I thought, oh, I love Charlie, and Charlie was a vet himself, Silver Star recipient. So that might be kind of an interesting, fun thing to do, fly to Washington and do a concert in front of this multitude of people on the west lawn of the Capitol. That sounds kind of exciting. Sure, Charlie, let's go. The next thing I know, I'm on a stage in front of 200,000 people. And next to me are screens showing planes flying into the World Trade Center. And behind me is the Washington Symphony Orchestra playing Mozart's Requiem. And I'm reading the words of 4 New York firemen who lost their sons in 9/11. And they're sitting right in the first row in their dress blue uniforms with their wives, and 200,000 people in front of me in the Capitol building and the flags flying. And I am lit up. I'm thinking, how do I get through this? And then it hits you at once that this is not an acting job. I'm recounting history, and I'm recounting it to the people directly, to people who affected personally. And it just came all crashing down on me. And it really, when I walked off the stage, which was kind of like an impromptu thing, when I concluded it, and to just kind of greet them and hug them, and I totally lost it. That's when and they were strong. They were stronger than I was. And as I walked backstage, and literally my legs felt like jello, I thought this just hit me in such a way that it's hard to describe. But all I say is when I spoke to them afterwards, the people who run the concert, I said, you know what? If you ever need me again for this, I'm happy to show up. Well, little did I know this will be my 20th year doing it now this year, that it would lead to me coming back for a few more years as a participant. And then when Ossie Davis passed and they asked me if I would host it, I was humbled and flattered to take that position. And I did it, I think, 1 year on my own, maybe 2. But that's when I told him, I said, you got to bring in Gary Sinise. I said, this guy, at least in my line of work, nobody does more for our military than this guy. So, and I think he would respond as I did. And of course, he did. I brought him in to actually just perform with his band that 1 year. I think it was maybe the second year I was hosting it. And of course, at the end of the concert, I saw it on Gary's face. He looked at me and said, hey, Joe, if you ever want me to do this again, I'm here. I said, Gary, how about we just do it together from this point on? And that was that. And so that's it. That's how it came about. And that's why it is such importance to me, because this goes beyond. I'm very blessed to do what I do for a living and been very successful at it. This gives me a chance to acknowledge why I'm blessed to be able to do it, because of sacrifices other people have made throughout our country's history.
That's powerful. And, that's one of the things that I love about it, is that so many stories are, I was just speaking with Gary actually, and, he was saying he never really asked his family to talk about the stories that they went through, serving our country. And so many of those stories are lost. And this helps to shine a light and make it history, hearing these people, and it opens it up to, people that may not have heard this otherwise. A Joe Mantegna fan might say, oh, he's hosting this, let me check it out. And now they're exposed to, a really vital, important part of our history, and more specifically these powerful stories of heroes.
No, exactly right. I mean, because you never know where. As for me, like I said, if Charlie Durning wouldn't have asked me to come see be part of that concert, I don't know. I don't even know if I would have known it existed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know it's a broadcast on PBS and all that, but I hadn't heard about it. It just never crossed my. And like I said, the other great thing about it, I was able to bring some of my uncles to the event over those 20 years, and especially two in particular. Two of my mother's brothers. My mother had 4 brothers, all fought in World War II. Never talked about it, any of them. And we're talking about one guy who spent a year in a German prison camp because he was shot down. Wow. My Uncle Tony. Then we got my Uncle Willie, who fought with Patton's army and was wounded and was had a Purple Heart and all of that. And so by bringing them to the concert, which I did, it opened them up, and all of a sudden they became, they were kind of able to kind of talk about it and get and come to grips with that whole thing with themselves. And that was really a beautiful, beautiful thing. I'll never forget the one year I brought my Uncle Jack, who had been a Marine and who was on the USS Enterprise, World War II. And he was a Marine because he was one of Halsey's aides at the time, because even though it was a Navy ship, they had like 10 Marines who were acted as kind of like, security for the Admiral. And it happened to fall on his birthday, the rehearsal for the concert. Mm-hmm. So I bring him and my Uncle Willie, his brother, who was the Army vet who fought under Patton. They're sitting there, and they're both like in their 80s at the time, watching the rehearsal. And it happened to be that the Marine choir was rehearsing. And I happened to mention to them that I want you to meet my uncle, because my uncle's a Marine and he was on the Enterprise. And I said, and actually today's his birthday. Instantly, the head of the Marine choir that got the guys together said something. They all formed a circle around my Uncle Jack in their red and white uniforms and sang happy birthday. And my Uncle Jack, for the only time in my life, I saw him standing there just crying like a baby. And I get choked up thinking about it, because he said to me afterwards, he says it was the most incredible thing that had ever happened to him in his life, because he was so proud to have been a Marine during World War II. Mm-hmm. But it was something he just didn't, he felt that those memories were just not something necessarily to talk about or relive. And here was a chance to just kind of let it all come, So that's the kind of stuff that's just, for me, unforgettable, and feel very blessed to have had the opportunity to, be a part of that.
It's powerful, and it's powerful art. It's powerful television. It's powerful stories. It's powerful performances, and I love being a part, my small part, and being there every year, and I love watching it every year, and I love what you do every year and your passion for it. So thank you, as a viewer for what you're doing, because it's such important, great work.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you. I mean, because like I said, we need people like yourselves to spread that word and put it out there. And that's what we do it for. And I'm especially excited about this year, because it's given us, even though we're having to do it somewhat virtually, because it was, last year was kind of sprung on us fairly quickly, and we had to kind of scramble and get it together. And still, I thought it was pretty interesting, really good. But this time, they've had that whole year to kind of think about it. And I think we were able to really put together something that's really kind of unique and special. And I was really impressed, because, Gary and I just finished, taping our segments for it. And so they were able to really put the time and effort to since we have to do it this way, and then God willing, we will be able to go back out live and do it next year. And that's everybody's intent. And I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. But I think we've learned a lot with being forced to, that whole thing, necessity is the mother of invention. Mm-hmm. So I think we came up with a really good program that's going to be very, I think it's really terrific. So, I'll be curious to see how people respond to it this year.
Well, thank you so much, sir. I could talk to you forever, as always. You are a delight, and I think it's going to happen next year. We're going to be talking in person next year.
I think so. I look forward to it. I especially look forward to talking to you again. You're one of the pros in this business, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. And you have an excellent weekend and an amazing Memorial Day. I seriously love that man. How can you not love Joe Mantegna, an icon? Let's jump right in to my conversation with Gary Sinise, all about PBS National Memorial Day Concert, which, by the way, is airing Sunday, May 30th at 8 p.m. Eastern. And you can go to pbs.org to, you could watch online, on YouTube, on PBS, on Facebook. There's all kinds of ways to watch. And, of course, on cable, or not cable. What's the non-cable called? Broadcast? I don't know. Anyway, you can watch on PBS. So let's talk with Gary Sinise. First of all, thank you so much for speaking with me, Pop Culture Weekly on iHeartRadio. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So you are a multiple, nominated for multiple Tony Awards, an Academy Award. You are a Emmy Award winner, a Golden Globe Award winner, and every single year nearly you make it a point to host the National Memorial Day Concert. Why is that so important to you?
Oh gosh, well, it's such a significant tradition in our country to take this one designated day and pay tribute to the sacrifices of the men and women who've given their lives and served in defense of freedom for our country. And it's this national venue. We usually do it live in front of the Capitol. It's magnificent to be there and everything, but it's also televised on PBS, where we reach over 10 million people every year. It's one of their highest rated shows of the year. It's a way to express our gratitude and our appreciation, to pay tribute and salute to these families who have sacrificed. And it's just, once I did it, I was hooked. I did it the first time in 2005. I brought my band there, and I was just part of a segment that they were doing, kind of telling the story of the history of the USO, and I was doing USO work, and I actually had my band overseas in Europe right before that, and we made Joe Mantegna call me up and asked me if I wanted to come and bring the band and be a part of this concert. He started doing it a few years before. I really didn't know much about the concert at all. And we finished our concert tour in, I think we were in Belgium and the Netherlands and Germany, and then we finished up in the UK, and then we flew straight to Washington, D.C., and here I am on this magnificent stage in front of the Capitol, and there's 200,000 people on the lawn. I was hooked from that point on, and I actually, they asked me not only to play that year, 2005, but to narrate some of the segments. So I got a real taste of the entire show, and the following year, Joe asked me to come back and co-host it with him, and it's just a great forum, a great opportunity to say thank you and to pay tribute. And I do that all year round with the Gary Sinise Foundation and the other things that I'm doing, but this is a special moment every year where we can come together as a nation and salute our heroes.
Yes, and we thank you. My father is just retired from the Navy after 30 years, and he actually saw you overseas in one of your USO tours and just said you were an absolute delight. So not only do I thank you.
Oh, you're kidding. Well, please give him my best. My dad was in the Navy as well, and so was my uncle. Oh,
wow. Yeah. Thank you, from him and for all of the military families. It's incredible work you're doing, and it is so much appreciated and needed. And
thank you.
Of course, thank you. And with this year, are you going to be narrating any stories in particular?
Yes, I actually do a bit. But mostly I'm the co-host of the show, and I introduce a lot of different segments. We have so many tremendous entertainers on the show this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we do every year. Every year it seems to get better than the last year. But I think all the shows are good. And this year we have some tremendous entertainers. So Joe and I obviously introduce them, and I narrate a few different things myself, and so does Joe. And one of the things I love about this concert is there's such a variety of stories to tell and so many different things to highlight that I think they could double the length of the show, and it would still be it'd still be amazing. It's 90 minutes that goes by very quickly because it's so well told and so powerful, and the entertainers are always really good.
Yeah, it really is an incredible show every single year. Capitol Concerts and PBS, and of course the talent, all really do a incredibly touching tribute to our men and women. And it's just always a joy to watch. For you, this year will be the anniversary of 9/11. Did that affect you in any way, personally or career-wise?
The events of September 11th changed everything for me. I was doing a play in New York that summer. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. We were on Broadway, and we were supposed to run the show until September 16th, but we closed early on July 29th. So I would have actually been in New York on September 11th if the show had gone the full 6 months that we were scheduled to go.
Wow.
So I came home from that, and then 6 weeks later we were attacked on September 11th, and that was the last play I did 20 years ago. My life changed dramatically, and I began full-on service mission to support the men and women who were responding to that attack, being deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq, and our veterans, and I got involved with multiple military charities that were supporting them, and started visiting the troops overseas in Iraq and Afghanistan and Europe and Italy and Guantanamo Bay, Puerto Rico. I mean, you name it. I've been all over the place, the Middle East and everywhere, and it just became a huge part of my life. And that's the reason I'm involved with the National Memorial Day concert, is because I just turned towards service work. And I wrote a book. It's called Grateful American: A Journey from Self to Service, and it really tells the story of how I got so involved in all of this. And the National Memorial Day concert is certainly one of those wonderful things that I'm able to do annually to pay tribute to our defenders.
Yeah, it's incredible to hear you talk about just how profound. Obviously 9/11 changed all of our lives and changed the world, but it's interesting to hear how profoundly it changed your life and your trajectory in life.
Completely. I did a television series after that, and that series allowed me, gave me the financial freedom to do a lot of amazing things in service and to create the Gary Sinise Foundation. And this year, obviously, with the 20th anniversary of the National Memorial Day concert, we have a whole segment that's being told by Steve Buscemi, who, is a wonderful actor, of course, but he was also a New York City firefighter. So he was down at Ground Zero, searching through the rubble. And Steve has a very personal story to tell there. So we're going to pay tribute to those who were lost on that tragic day 20 years ago.
And what does Memorial Day, and you've touched on it a bit, but, in a deeper sense, what does Memorial Day mean to Mr. Gary Sinise?
Well, it's, obviously it's, when I was a kid, it was ball games and barbecues and, going to the beach. And those were in the days where I was younger and, playing rock and roll and doing little plays in high school and that kind of thing. That's what I was interested in. Then I met my wife, or soon to be my wife, and she introduced me to her brothers who had all served in Vietnam. her sister was in the Army, who married a Vietnam veteran who served in the Army for 22 years. And they started giving me a real education. Then I started looking at the veterans in my own family. World War I, my grandfather served. Two uncles in World War II. My dad served in the Navy during Korea. But, when I was a kid, I never talked to them at all about their military service. They were well past their military service. My grandfather was 17 years old on the front lines in France during World War I, and I wished, later on, I wished I'd talked to him about it, but I never did. And it was the Vietnam veterans on my wife's side of the family. It really woke me up and started me thinking a lot. And then, I started supporting Vietnam veterans in various ways in the 80s. In the 90s, I played the Vietnam veteran in Forrest Gump, Lieutenant Dan, and that started me supporting our wounded veterans through the Disabled American Veterans Organization. And then September 11th happened, and I was just teed up with all of that to go out there and try to help our active duty folks just get through the day. And that manifested into the creation of the Gary Sinise Foundation and multiple programs on many fronts to try and support our defenders and their families.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, sir, for all that you're doing, in support of our brave men and women and with the foundation, which, of course, people can go to GarySiniseFoundation.org to get resources and find out how they can help. And we will see you for the National Memorial Day concert on PBS.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. Again, just an incredible man. The work that he does, tireless work that he does for veterans, wounded warriors. I mean, he's just such a great guy. And now, let's talk with USAA Vice President of Brand Management, Eric Inquist, about the very special things that USAA is doing for our fallen this Memorial Day. All right, so I am here with a very special guest from USAA, Eric Enquist. Thank you so much for speaking with me, Eric.
Thanks for having me. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you. So Memorial Day is this weekend, and USAA is always, I love USAA. I bank with USAA, and it's a tradition my entire family does. My father just retired from the military, from the Navy. You guys are helping in something extremely cool and important this week. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
We are. Thank you for that. And thank you for your membership. As you mentioned, USAA is a financial services company that is committed to serving the military members. We were founded by the military for the military nearly 100 years ago. And so we continue to serve those who serve us. And Memorial Day is a perfect occasion that we can honor and remember those who have given their lives in defense of our freedom. And so this weekend, we're launching an initiative to commemorate the fallen through a virtual Poppy Wall of Honor, where we have at poppyinmemory.com an opportunity to commemorate those who've given the ultimate sacrifice. You can donate a poppy or commit a poppy in memory of a loved one, or view other poppies that servicemen and women have had committed in their honor. And you can also learn about the more than 645,000 U.S. service members who have given their life in defense of our freedom since World War I.
That's absolutely a heartbreaking number, but these brave men and women, have literally given their lives for our freedoms, and that's something that nobody should take lightly. And as we see, USAA is doing great work with this. So tell me about what, from my knowledge, the whole Poppy thing relating to veterans started in the 1920s or somewhere around there?
Close, yes. 1915,
okay.
A Canadian doctor in World War I lost a dear friend in a battle in Belgium. And when he visited the battlefield, he saw the war-scarred ground was blooming with red poppies. And he wrote a poem in his friend's memory called In Flanders Fields. And a lady in New York, Moina Michael, read this poem and was so moved, she wrote a response to him and committed to wearing a red poppy in honor of all fallen service members in World War I. And she really worked hard to commission the poppy as the national symbol of remembrance. And in 1920, the American Legion adopted the red poppy as that national symbol. Today, not just in the United States or in the VFW or American Legion is the poppy a recognized symbol, but it is a symbol for remembrance the world over.
And typically in non-COVID times, the American Legion Auxiliary will or veterans in conjunction with the American Legion Auxiliary will handcraft paper poppies, right?
That's correct. They do. And in fact, in years past, USAA has erected a real poppy wall of honor to commemorate those 645,000 American service members. The wall that we construct is at the National Mall in DC. It's over 130 feet long, nearly 10 feet tall. And when you see 645,000 poppies in that magnitude, it really gives scale to the number of servicemen and women who have given their lives in defense of our freedoms. Those poppies in that wall were donated by the American Legion and the VFW. Many were handmade by veterans in their own time and then donated to the VFW and American Legion for the purpose of distribution.
And then often when these are sold, that money goes directly back to veterans to help in their rehabilitation efforts and that sort of thing. Is that correct?
Yes, there are a lot of veteran service organizations that are committed to serving families of the fallen and programs for veterans and those who are impacted by the wars.
It's, absolutely. It's such a cool thing to see happening. This is a tradition that's nearly, 100 years old almost now. And USAA continues to lead the way in helping to, keep this, not only keep this tradition growing, but continuing the tradition, even in times where we can't typically honor our fallen in the ways that we usually would. So the website, the virtual poppies, this is awesome.
I appreciate that. It is an important weekend. Oftentimes Memorial Day, it's the advent of summer. It's marked by barbecues and vacation time. Everyone's, I think, emerging from their homes in light of the loosening restrictions associated with COVID. So we really are hoping that everybody can get out and enjoy their days, get back with family members and friends whom they've been separated from. But it's also important to remember the true meaning behind the holiday, and that is to honor those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. So we encourage people just to take a moment and honor them, remember them. We can visit poppyinmemory.com to learn more about the conflicts since World War I, where so many have sacrificed. They can also dedicate a poppy to a fallen service member. And then also, we encourage people to help spread the word. Take pictures of what they're doing to remember the fallen on Memorial Day weekend. Send it out via social media with the hashtag Honor Through Action. Wear a poppy on their lapel like I am today. There are many things that you can do to honor. And the best thing to do is educate the public around the true meaning of the Memorial Day holiday.
Eric, thank you so much. Thanks, to USAA for the work that they're doing, have done, and continue to do. And we can get all the information, donate, and read through at poppyinmemory.com.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you helping spread the message.
Of course. Love USAA. They're so awesome. This is not an ad. This is honestly just me saying this. I love USAA. I've been in like one accident and they were incredible with me. And I was like, where's my insurance? And they were like, Kyle, calm down. We got you covered. This is why you pay insurance. We're going to take care of you. Love them. All right. So that is our show for today. I have some really, really exciting guests coming up that you don't want to miss, including next week. And I'll just give you a hint. There's a Stephen King show coming out very, very, very soon, as in next week. And that's all. That's the hint you get on who I'll be talking with next week. So Yeah. Yep. That's all I got. Have an amazing Memorial Day. If it is not Memorial Day yet, depending on when you listen, if it is after Memorial Day, I hope you had an amazing Memorial Day. And no matter what you're doing, just take a moment, 1 minute, 60 seconds to just give thanks and honor our fallen men and women whose sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice, has allowed us to enjoy the freedoms that we do. Love you all. See you next week. We out.
You're listening to Pop Culture Weekly with Kyle McMahon, presented by 92.9 Tom FM, an iHeart radio station.
And all the land